Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Connected. My name is Paul, I'm a student here in Rotterdam and I will be your host for the day. Before we get into it and I'll start introducing our brilliant specialists, I would like to begin by taking you on a little walk back in time. Internet's ancestor, ARPANET, was created as a file-sharing network between universities in the United States and was first brought online in 1972. 10 years later, it consisted of a little over 30 different websites. Less than 40 years after that, it's estimated that there are right now around 1.12 billion live websites in the world, and more are created each second. What was first intended as a very small-scale and scientific device quickly evolved into arguably the biggest and fastest-growing technological revolution in our collective history. Now, what does that mean? Well, today around 2.5 billion are connected to the internet, more than 1/3 of the human race, and it's making the planet much, much smaller. Traveling along thousands and thousands of kilometers of underwater cables, information is exchanged in the form of ones and zeros. Academical papers, top 10 lists about anything, our webinar, and of course, cat pictures are wandering around the Earth at light speed, all for our enrichment and entertainment. It made it easier than ever to find information, to connect with people that share your interests, and to build communities around common ideas or goals. This idea is best summed up by this concept, the network society. To explore this in more details, let me introduce our first speaker and my French compatriot, Sylvain Sauvager. Thank you so much for joining us. Right before we start, I would just like to take the time to thank all of you for joining us and to remind you that we welcome questions. Sometimes will be set aside at the end of the webinar to address them, so do not hesitate if you'd like some extra information. Sylvain, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Digitalization, decentralization, social media, sharing, rating, user-generated content. Does it make sense to you? Yes, I'm talking about the network society, the new world we are all living in. Actually, various social, technological, economic, and cultural transformations gave rise to this new form of society. According to Manuel Castells, the network society is a society where the key social structures and activities are organized around electronically processed information networks. But first, what is a network? Well, there are different definitions, but they all emphasize the interconnected nature of networks. In our new world, people are connected in wide social networks, and social influence does not end with the people we know. I'm sure you are already aware of the direct effect you have on your friends and family. You know that your action can make them happy or sad, healthy or sick, and so on. But what if I say that everything you think, feel, do, or say can spread far beyond the people you know? Yes, by affecting your friends, you can affect their friends, and then your actions can potentially affect people you have never met. And conversely, you can be affected by events you do not attend that happen to people you don't know. Let me give you an example. Christakis and Fowler have found out that if your friend's friend gain weight, you would gain weight. And if your friend stops smoking, you would stop smoking. Surprising, isn't it? Well, keep in mind that our connections affect every aspect of our daily lives. How we feel, what we know, whom we marry, whether we fall ill, how much money we make, and whether we vote, all depend on the ties that bind us. By being a part of a social network, we become a part of something much larger. We are all connected. But why do you have very especially to know about the network society? Well, because one of its main impacts is the one on the communication realm. After the emergence of computer networks and the internet, digital communications began to dominate. And today, the internet has led to new communication phenomena, such as online social networking. As Manuel Castells explains, there has been a shift from traditional mass media to a system of horizontal communication networks organized around the internet and wireless communication. In terms of how information flows, the game has changed. Digital networks offered a way of avoiding the gatekeepers and communicating directly across the globe. A new form of societal communication has emerged that Manuel Castle called mass self-communication. It is mass communication because it can potentially reach a global audience. It is multimodal as the digitalization of content allows the reformatting of almost any content in almost any form. And finally, it is self-generated in content, self-directed in emission, and self-selected in reception by many who communicate with many. According to Manuel Castells, this is a new medium whose backbone is made of computer networks, whose language is digital, and whose senders are globally distributed and globally interactive. To finish, let me show you a short video which explains about this social media revolution.
Presentation and this very instructive video. I do have a few additional questions though. First, could you tell me how we as communication professionals can deal with the impact of the network society?
I think that the next lecture will somehow discuss about it, but yeah, right now I can already give you some tips.
Thank you.
So I think that first you should build an online community of customers around your brand. Also to reach the right influencers at the right time and with the right content so as to achieve a better visibility and credibility. To understand what motivates your customers to participate in your brand community and to listen to them because now we know that their voice can do or undo your brand reputation, and to provide them with relevant and up-to-date content.
Right. And from what you're saying, I feel like the term brand communities is really important. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that community activity revolutionized the business. All these social interactions between members are really important because they change the relationships from the customers to the brand and their attitude towards the brand. They increase customers' trust, loyalty, and commitment.
Right. Well, I want to thank you very much for this presentation and these answers. Have a very nice day. Thanks again for being here. Now, navigating the various overlapping social circles generated in the network society and sprawled over many, many social networks is not always easy. Fortunately, I'm very pleased to introduce our Italian friend, Valentina Coghetto, here to talk about social media mapping. Valentina,
Hi.
thanks so much for being with us.
Hello everybody, I guess all of you have a smartphone and at least one Instagram account, but I guess not everybody knows what social media mapping is. Well, first of all, we can also talk about social media listening or monitoring, and this maybe gives you a hint on the topic we will discuss today. As you might have noticed, social media have totally changed the way businesses interact with the public and, on the other hand, the way public engages with brands. Indeed, basically every brand is on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to have an active monitoring of the information exchanged on social media channels by users. They do so in order to understand people's opinion and feedbacks, but especially their needs. As we already said, social media mapping has many functions like identifying trends, reactions, and emotions, but also to organize customers' information and analyze the competition. To do so, enterprises use free monitoring tools available online like Social Mention, Google Alerts, TweetReach, and many, many more. As you can see in these pictures, these are the most followed or liked brands on social media platforms. It is almost ridiculous to think that some brands almost reach the same amount of people living in small countries and that every day there are thousands and thousands of new people that start following. Social media are considered an active component of any business because they show in numbers the connection and the willingness of the public to engage in conversation and purchase. Thanks to these social media channels, brands can sponsor, advertise, or promote events and projects. The first aim is, of course, to create a community of likewise people that share the same interest and passion towards and around the brand. The second important goal is to create a valuable and lasting content for their customers. After all, we can say that brands should all adapt to this new network analysis that allows them to understand the relations that arise when organizations and people interact and connect. Yes, that's because nowadays brands represent actually a link between people and they succeed to gather a community around the same values. This also allows them to know how far their information can go in order to measure the spreadability and so the efficacy of the message. Social media is at the center of almost everybody's lives. We use it to communicate and share, but especially to connect with friends. And this works the same for brands, because they now have the possibility to collect real-time data on customers and trends, but also to monitor and improve the connection. To conclude and sum up, social media is an influential component of today's lives. It allows, among the other things, to plan ahead the advertising of some fixed events, such as on Valentine's Day or Christmas, in order to have an effective impact on consumers. It is vital for brands to identify the insights people have and to add relevance, value, or fun to be the first to come up with ideas and projects.
Thank you very much, Valentina. Once again, I have a few questions from our audience.
Yes.
First, could you tell me, what would you say attracts people the most on social media?
Well, I would say all the sponsorships that brands have look interesting at people's eyes. Celebrities also attract people. The engagement that arises when people comment on brands' posts and the possibility to get answer also is an incentive that people didn't used to have before.
All right. And I also wanted to ask you about where do you think the huge popularity of Instagram, which is really hot right now, comes from?
Yes, well, Instagram, everybody loves Instagram because people can share pictures and that's what they love to do. Brands have the possibility to show events, collections, and using videos, pictures, stories, etc. And they can create and use personal hashtags for a special occasion and can also tag celebrities and important people to attract, well, people's attention.
Right. And is it possible to really measure the engagement from the people, and if so, how?
Well, yes, it is possible through likes and hashtags, and you can measure how many people view actually your post and if they like it or not, and what do they think about it with feedbacks and comments.
All right. Okay. Well, Valentina, thank you very much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Have a very nice day. Bye. To go even further on this topic, I would now like to welcome Komala Mazeron, our teacher and a resident expert on communication and public relations. Komala, thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
First, could you tell us a bit about your job?
Yes, I'm a teacher at the University of Applied Sciences in Rotterdam, and next to that I'm also a researcher, also at the University of Applied Sciences.
All right, and what are you researching right now?
Well, I'm working on a project which is called The Network is the Message, and within this project I'm looking for insights when it comes to the effectiveness of branded content on social media, and I'm working together with a dozen communication agencies who are also very interested in that specific question.
All right, and what drew you to such a research topic?
Yeah, like Valentina just mentioned, almost every brand is present on social media, and little is known when it comes to the effectiveness. So I'm not only talking about likes and shares, but I'm talking about more. So when it comes to the return of investment or the effectiveness of branded content, we don't know as much as we would like to know. So that's why we try to discover and explore successful strategies, and we also test them, and also content characteristics to learn more about the effectiveness of branded content on social media.
All right, and could you give us a little sneak peek just for us into the results of your research so far?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Well, the most important result is that it's getting harder and harder to create organic reach, and it has to do with the algorithms of Facebook and Instagram. So they decide what they think the audience think is relevant, so it's not up to you anymore. And next to that there's also a lot of clutter on social media, so there's a lot of information on your timeline. So we think that there's a huge chance when it comes to real-time social media marketing. So moment marketing is getting more and more important, and next to that we think that the fan base is overestimated, so we say forget the fan base, think in moments.
That's certainly a strong insight. And all right, as a last question to sum up, I'm going to tell you a sentence, and I would like you to tell me what it means to you.
Okay.
The sentence is: the network is the message. Thoughts?
Yes. Well, for me that means that we go away from the perspective of sender and receiver, and that when it comes to branding, the network is very, very important. So every person in the network creates brand stories and branding together with the brand itself.
All right. Thank you again so much for being with us.
Welcome.
And have a very nice day.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Before we go on, how much do you actually know about your smartphone and what makes it, smart? Well, the answer is sensors. Sensors are what makes it smart. Let us tell you a bit more about them.
Sensor technique in daily life. Sensors are technical gadgets to measure different things. For example, the smell, taste, feeling, sound or weight of something. Due to an input, sensors process the given information and react by, for example, counting, detecting and watching accordingly. The touch screen of your smartphone or tablet is a sensor that reacts to the pressure and movement of your finger. The light sensor of your smartphone screen reacts to the environmental lighting. Here you can see a real sensor. It is used in pubs or restaurants. As soon as you want a new beer, you can put your empty bottle or a glass on the sensor and the bartender gets a signal to bring you another one. But how can this help you with your community? A sensor can help you tracking the actions of your students. If you try to learn more about the needs and wants of your students, you need to know their behavior. With a sensor like the one explained before, you can not only see that a person wants another beer, you can also track the peak times for beer orders or how many beers are sold on one evening. There are several other possibilities to use sensors. For example, you can help students meet and get to know more people. If you want to learn more about sensors in daily life or related to communities, you can watch the video linked below.
Okay, allow me now to welcome our very own Dutchie, Henry Rouse, here to discuss psychology of networking. Henry, we're all ears. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Hopefully by now you know some more about the network society and social media mapping. Now I'm going to give you some great insights on the psychology of networking. And to explain the psychology behind this social networking, we need to go back to the fundamentals of social media. To better understand the need for people to use social media, we need to go back to the why and how. Why do people use social media and how do people use it? To answer these questions, let's start with the following graph. This graph shows the top 10 motivations to use social networks among Facebook users between the age of 16 and 64. What does this graph tell us? Obviously, the number one is to stay in touch with my friends, what my friends are doing. Others are to share photos and videos because my friends are on it, or to share my opinions. Almost all these motivations have something in common, that is the social component. And now we come to the why. These motivations can be summed up by 4 specific factors. Now you can see the most important factors that drive social networking behavior, which are socializing, entertainment, self-status seeking, and information. And these 4 factors are part of the user and gratifications theory. To start with socializing, people follow their need to be a part of a group in order to feel a sense of belonging to others who have the same interests. These can be friends, family members, or even people they do not know yet. And when it comes to entertainment, people simply go to these networks to share pictures or videos which evoke certain emotions, be it something funny, sad, inspiring, or motivating. And self-status seeking may need a short introduction. Self-status seeking means that people try to create an own image, meet acceptance, or gain self-affirmation from positive feedback of others. This also touches the reasons why people interact on social media. This is to affirm your own identity through an online network. Information is self-explanatory. People like to be up to date when it comes to news, company information, product offers, or any other topics. Now we come to the question, how do people and organizations use it? Let's start with an expert on this matter, Professor Robert Cialdini. He's an expert on psychology and marketing and is known for this 7 principles of persuasion. But first I want to quote Professor Cialdini. He has said the following: people's ability to understand the factors that affect their behavior is surprisingly poor. Most people can't explain why they made a particular decision. And these 7 principles explain the underlying factors of decision making, thus giving insights to people, communication professionals, and organizations how decisions are being made on a psychological level. I will use 3 of the most important principles of persuasion to explain what it stands for and to give an example of how this can be used. Reciprocation. Reciprocation recognizes that people feel indebted to those who do something for them or give them a gift. For the professional, this simply means that the implication is you have to go first. Give something, give information, give free samples, give a positive experience to people, and they will want to give you something in return. And when it comes to social proof, people look around them to guide their decisions and actions, especially when they are uncertain and want to know what everyone else is thinking or doing, especially their peers. As an example, testimonials from satisfied customers show your target audience that people who are similar to them have enjoyed your products or service. They'll be more likely to become customers themselves. And now to the final one, scarcity. In fundamental economic theory, scarcity relates to supply and demand. Basically, the less there is of something, the more valuable it is. The more rare and uncommon a thing, the more people want it. For a professional, this specifically means if your product or service is genuinely unique, be sure to emphasize its unique qualities to increase the perception of its scarcity. And now I'd like to talk about the impact of social media on our lives. It is clear that the impact of social media on our lives is significant. In 2014, the University of Central Florida performed a study which led to the conclusion that social media affects an individual more than most people realize. The study shows that social media especially affects the self-esteem. The outcome was that most young adults have problems with their self-esteem after comparing their own lives with those of others on social media. It was stated that among teenagers, young adults, middle-aged and older adults, most of the first 2 groups reported troubles such as difficulties with sleeping and feeling uncomfortable because they were worried about their own accomplishments in life. But the impact of social media on our self-esteem is not solely negative. A study conducted by Dr. Stephanie Tobin from the University of Queensland discovered that active participation on social media can result in a greater sense of belonging in a group. The result of her research indicated that if a person solely observes social media, they will develop a negative feeling about their self-esteem. However, When a person actively participates in social media, it is more likely to have a positive effect on their self-esteem. So it is clear that there are upsides and downsides to the impact social media has on our lives. I hope I've given you all some insight in the psychology of networking.
That was indeed very, very insightful. Thank you so much for this presentation.
Yep.
I still have a few questions though, of course.
Sure.
First, would you say the top 10 reason for using social media that you presented earlier, is that top 10 likely to change in the following years?
I doubt it. The motivations to use social media will probably stay the same. The way it is presented will probably change. Just think of like virtual reality or HoloLenses.
Well,
in the end, it is all to serve a purpose, satisfying needs of the users, be it for entertainment use or self-status seeking.
all right. And could you tell us a bit more about the negative impact you mentioned of social media in people's life?
Yeah, sure. I think there's a certain danger when it comes to using social media and being online. People can get easily addicted if you're online all the time, everywhere. But as I've tried to point out, it is also very much a responsibility for the individual using social media. Active participation can yield great benefits to people, like getting a new job through Facebook or LinkedIn, meeting up with new friends or groups of people. But nowadays it's hard not to be on these social media platforms, as almost everyone uses it, and there's a chance you miss out on things if you're not part of it.
Of course. Would you say it's ethical for organizations to use the principle of persuasion you mentioned to influence people, to influence their decisions?
Yeah, very good question. First of all, I think organizations have been using these same principles for a long time. It's not something new, although some organizations may have not consciously used this specific theory to influence their target audience. I think it also depends on the reason behind using these principles, if it is ethical or not. The intent, so to speak, like what is your intent? If it is to exploit certain weak groups in society, I think these organizations should be held responsible and called out for doing so.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Henry.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Now, to learn how to talk to the people other people listen to, let's talk to Lindsay van der Hoeven. She's a model, a fitness ambassador, and our classmate with around 15,000 followers. She has an idea or two about influencer marketing. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us. First, could you explain to me what it means, influencer marketing?
Yes, well, more and more consumers are buying goods and services based on what they see on their Instagram feeds. And influencer marketing is like 11 times more effective than just normal banner ads. And this is why companies are spending their advertising budget to social media based campaigns with Instagram accounts who have a lot of followers. And people own that account, that's called influencers.
All right, so you mentioned it was 11 times more effective than regular advertising. Why would you say it is so effective?
Well, there are many reasons why this is so much more effective than normal banner ads, as long as it's believable. So you often see that an influencer has its own team or shows his personality in pictures, and this can be about sports or food or anything. And it's really important that it matches with the brand.
All right. Could you tell us a bit more about your personal experience as an influencer marketer?
Well, 6 months ago I started to work out, and a sports company, approached me and said like, can we sponsor you from the beginning so we can help you to reach your goals? And I was really excited about that.
Obviously.
So we started to work together, and I started wearing those leggings and posted pictures on Instagram. And people were asking like, oh, what kind of material is it? Does it fit well? They could ask me anything, and I always give them a personal advice. So this is why people are more willing to buy stuff than just see it on an ad. So
All right.
And also I wear those clothes to the gym and just at home and with my friends. So everyone can see the leggings online and offline. And this is way more effective than just...
All right. And so it all started with one single Instagram picture.
Yeah, one picture about working out. And back then I had only 1,200 followers, but another company approached me, which is built by 3 Dutch professional soccer players, and they have a reach of 1 million followers. So they asked me to send products and if I could take pictures with it, and I was planning to go to Thailand, so I took the stuff with me and made some pictures over there. And yeah, they started to post my pictures, and yeah, with all those followers, I get a lot of followers as well, and all other companies were starting to ask to cooperate with me. So yeah, that's how it all falls together.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your insight, and we wish you all the best.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
bye-bye.
And now to talk about what encourage people to share, let me welcome our dear Sevan back. Sevan, once more, the floor is yours.
Thank you. If it does not spread, it is dead, said Henry Jenkins. In other words, your content is useless when it's not spreadable. It has to drive engagement across platforms by empowering consumers to share it. Otherwise, it will not live online. But when is content called spreadable? Well, content is spreadable when it travels across media platforms, mainly because people are taking it over control and sharing it in social networks. There is a shift from distribution to circulation. We are moving towards a more participatory model of culture, one which sees the public not as simply consumers of preconstructed messages, but as people who are shaping, sharing, reframing, and remixing media content. Jenkins said that spreadable media is good to generate active commitment from the audience, to empower them and make them an integral part of your product success, to benefit from online word of mouth, to raise brand awareness, and most of all, to communicate with audiences where they already are and in a way that is useful for them. But how can you provide your customers with content to share within their communities? Well, first of all, you can't just make spreadable content every time you want it. Your content might be really good, but not worth sharing. Successful content creators have to understand the strategic and technical aspect that they need in order to create more spreadable content. So, first, things spread because people choose to spread them. That is why you need to understand your audience motivation and interest, because your content should resonate with them. In other words, spreadable content can become viral if it's determined by the choices of your audience, their investment, agendas, and action. Second, there are a few considerations that you should help to increase the chances your content might be spread. Jenkins and all explain that content is more likely to be spread if it is available when and where your audience wants it. Thus, you have to find the perfect moment to post your content online by knowing all the latest events, attitudes, and trends. And you also have to choose your channel wisely. Your content also has to be portable or quotable so that your audience can edit it, grabbable so that your audience can pick it up and insert it wherever they want, easily reusable and interpreted in a variety of ways, because you know your audience will spread your content for many different purposes, and finally, relevant to multiple audiences. Besides, some types of material have a higher potential for spreadability because they are more likely to engage people and people deem worth sharing them. They are the following: shared fantasies and values, humor, parody and references, unfinished content, mystery, timely controversy, and rumors. So avoid unnecessary tragedies and negative events. Nobody wants to spread negativity. And be more visible by using pictures and video. So, as you may have understood, positive publications which cause joy and pleasure are more shared than aggressive and costly content. Do you remember the Ice Bucket Challenge 2 years ago? And now we see the mannequin challenge all over the internet. It is a viral internet video trend where people remain frozen and act like mannequins. So let's see this video.
Thank you very much, Sylvain. If it's okay with you, I'd like to go for one final round of questions. First, what would you say the difference between sticky and spreadable content is?
Well, there are several distinctions. The two main differences are the following. First, thickness seeks to attract and hold the attention of, for example, a site visitors, whereas spreadability seeks to motivate and facilitate the efforts of the fans and enthusiasts to spread the word. And second, thickness depends on concentrating the attention of all interested parties on a specific site or through a specific channel. And on the contrary, spreadability seeks to expand consumer awareness by dispersing the content in all the potential points of contact.
All right. And with all these evolutions that have been discussed today, would you say we are witnessing the end of advertising as we know it?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I can't really answer, but what I can say is that, advertising is based on the schema see, like, remember, and buy. So that means that a lot of agencies are doing their best so that the highest number of people, of the right people, see, remember, and like the ad.
All right.
But I think by doing so, they are struggling with the new forms of media, the new needs of brands. Because, for example, who would rip out an ad of a magazine, scan it, and email it to a friend? Probably nobody, you know? So I think that agencies should also ask themselves about the why and the how. It's time to begin thinking about what we want people to do, not only with the product, but also with the content, and how to get them do it.
All right. Well, Sylvain, thank you very much for
Thank you.
all this effort that have been put in. Have a very nice day. As you've all seen, this topic is as vast as it is complex, but we hope to have shown you not only its importance, but its strengths and the wide range of opportunities our interconnected society offers. Before signing off, many special thanks to Monique Abbenbroek and Kamala Mazerant, our teachers and first supporters, to the technical staff at Hogeschool Rotterdam, who has been very nice and very patient with us, and of course to the rest of the team, which you didn't see today, but put in an amazing work to make all of this happen. Finally, of course, thank you most of all to all of you who watched us today. From all our team, have a nice day and happy holidays to you all.